Hello and welcome to Equivalent Fractions and the Lowest Common Denominator. This isn't going to be too long a lesson, however it is important. So what you're going to do in this mini lecture is to find equivalent fractions using the lowest common denominator method. So in the previous lecture we talked about multiplying up and cancelling down, and I said that you probably get an exam question with a few different fractions and you'll be asked to find equivalents. You might also be asked to put them in order of size. So let's have a look at these fractions. It says write these fractions in order of size starting with the smallest. Now we can imagine what a half might look like and 3/4 might look like, because you know that's like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You could probably even imagine 2/3 or 1/6, but 3/8 might be a bit tricky. And also to know which one's more or which one's bigger than which might be quite difficult, especially if you have tougher fractions than these. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the lowest common denominator of all of these numbers. Okay, so I'm going to write down the times tables. Now you might know your times tables off by heart, and it might be really easy for you to find a number that all of these 5 denominators go into. But if you don't, that's why we've written down the times table. So we've got the 4 times table because this is a 4, 3 times table, 2 times table, 6 times table, and the 8 times table. And if you look through the lists, you will notice that 24 is in all of them. So because 24 is in all of them, I want to make 24 my denominator. So I'm going to write down 24 on the bottom of all of my fractions there. Okay. And then what I need to do is I need to think about what I did to each of those base numbers to get to 24. So how did I get from 4 to 24? Okay, well all I need to do is look down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it means I times by 6, okay, which means I need to do 3 times 6 as well. And 3 times 6 is 18, so 18 will go on the top of our fraction, giving us 18 out of 24, okay? And then here we need to think, what did I do to 3 to get 24? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I times by 8, which means I need to do 2 times 8. Now 2 times 8 is 16, so 16 would go on the top of our fraction. So that would be 16 out of 24. We then have a half. What did I multiply 2 by to get to 24? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 1 times 12, that's an easy one, is 12. What did I do to 6 to get 24? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I times it by 4. So I have to times 1 by 4. Another nice one. So 1 times 4 is 4. And then finally, what did I do to 8 to get 24? 1, 2, 3. I times by 3, so I have to do the top times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So now we can see we have 18, 16, 12, 4 and 9. And if I was going to put those in order of size, I would have this one first. Okay, so I have 4 24ths, so I'll write 1/6, that was my smallest one. The next one was 9 over 24 because it's the 9. Yeah, 9 over 24 because it's the next biggest number. So that means 3/8 was my next biggest fraction. Okay, and then my next one was 12. Okay, 12 over 24. So that means a half was my next biggest. Okay, and then I have 16 over 24, which means 2/3 was my next biggest, and finally I have 18, which means 3/4 was my next one. Did I start with the smallest first? Yes, just checking. Was my next biggest, so it's the smallest one. Smallest one here. Starting with the smallest, next one, next one, next one. Okay, so 3/4 was the most. Now, oops, that's not very good. 3. Now you might notice that is it makes sense because 3/4 is bigger than a half, and 1/6 is very small. It's like saying you've got 6 slices of pizza, you only get one of them. Okay, it's quite small. You're not having half of a pizza or 3/4, that's quite a lot. Okay, so this is how we would use the common denominator method for putting fractions in order of size like that. Right, so here's a quick task. Write these numbers in order of size and start with the smallest. So you've got to think about what number all of these 4 denominators go into. Okay, so if you'd like to pause the video and have a quick go, and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, if you've paused the video, I'm going to go through the answers. So if you haven't noticed already, then actually all of these numbers on the bottom, okay, they all go into 100. Right, so that means that 100 can go on the bottom of all of my fractions. Okay. All right. So then what do I do to 20 to get 100? What did I times by? So 20 times 5 makes 100, okay? So let's write that down so you've got it. Times that by 5 gives you 100, which means you have to do 13 times 5. And 13 times 5 is 65. Okay, oops. Now, what do you times by 4? What goes into 100 4 times? And I'm hoping you realised that that was 25, because 25, 50, 75, 100. So we would have had to times that by 25. Okay, so it could be quite tricky. So that means you have to do 3 times 25. And I'm hoping you all know that 3 times 25 is 75. Now, if I have this 25 here, well, that means that I must have to times that by 4 to get 100, because if you look, 25 times 4 makes 100, and 4 times 25 makes 100. Okay, so we times that by 4, which means then, again, I have to times the top number by 4. And 18 times 4 is 72. And finally, if you've noticed, here we had to times by 5 to get 100. So if I've got 5 here, I must have to times by 20. Okay, so 5 times 20 is 100, which means 3 times 20 is 60. Okay, and if we're going to write those in order of size, smallest first, we would have this one, okay, which is our 3/5. Then 65 over 100, because it's just a little bit bigger, then 72, and then 75. And you would write it in the order of these fractions, okay? So we did, this would be our first one, so that's number 1, okay, which was this one. This is number 2. Sorry, no, that was not number 1, sorry. This is number 1. This is number 2. And then this is number 3. And this is number 4. Okay, so you need to write them in order. So you'd write that one first, then that one, then that one, then that one. Okay, so that's the end of this lecture. Like I said, it wasn't very long, but it is an important one, and I hope you've understood it. If you're doing this as part of your online course, then please feel free to ask any questions. If you are doing this from YouTube, then there will be some more videos on this and some extra resources that you can use on the website. So well done, and I hope you got all those correct, and thank you so much for using Cubit Education. I'll see you in the next lecture.